All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Parks and Recreation Professional Interview Series. I think I got a different name every time I introduce it. It's the series where we talk to people that are in the parks, rec, and related professions. Today we've got Dylan Bogard, hailing from Richmond, Kentucky. How are you doing today, Dylan?
I'm doing great. Yeah, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I know you and I have known each other a little bit. Glad to see you're doing well. Um, could you tell us real briefly who you work for, what your title is, and just like a one line sentence about what you do?
Yeah, so I'm the Associate Director in the Office of Student Life and First Year Experience here at Eastern Kentucky University. And I've been in student life for about 4 years in some sort of capacity.
And so, we're going to take a trip in the Wayback Machine to start off with. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what kind of things you did for fun.
Yeah, so I grew up about an hour and a half, 2 hours north of here in a small town called Ellesmere, Kentucky. It's just in that northern Kentucky region, just about 15 minutes south of Cincinnati, so kind of a suburb of that city. I grew up hanging out with friends, kind of had some close-knit neighbors that, as a kid, I would ride around and, hang out at the park and do those kind of things with my friends in the neighborhood. As I got older, I got more involved with some sports that I played in high school. I did some tennis and I was on the bowling team too, which
Right
is
on.
kind of fun. And then, as I got a little bit older, got my driver's license, I got kind of into cars and that kind of thing. Have my 73 Bug still. I've had it since high school and that's kind of my hobby I picked up growing up and working on that and just, really being around friends and doing some extracurricular activities.
What was your highest bowling score ever?
Oh man. It was in the 200s, probably like 250, I
Okay,
would say, somewhere around that, probably my highest. So not the best, but pretty good.
better than me. I think my highest was like 220, 230, something like that. I was on I didn't know this about bowling, so I was on a bowling team for a number of years in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and we got, I want to say, over 4 years, which is actually, or no, over 3 years, which is there's the spring and fall season.
Yeah.
We got first place a couple times and second place a couple of times.
Hey.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, bowling champions. So anyway, I'm glad we're fellow bowlers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
are
it's a
are
lot of
you
fun.
right or lefty?
I'm a righty.
Yeah. Okay. Same here. Okay. So you get done with high school. You're looking at college. What kind of things were going through your mind as far as where to go to college and what you wanted to do and study while in college?
Yeah, so definitely, and I think a lot of people my age and probably a little bit younger looked, where I could afford to go and what had some really good scholarships. That definitely influenced my choice. I was also looking at, schools that had programs that I was interested in, faculty that were known for what they were doing and what they were teaching. I also was really looking at honors programs at the schools that I applied to in high school. Those were kind of my biggest factors, I would say, is, affordability, the programs that I wanted to be a part of, and then, looking at those different kind of extracurriculars I was interested in.
And then where did you choose to go?
I chose to go to Eastern Kentucky University, so I'm still here. They call us eternal colonels that stick around. And I ended up majoring in political science with a minor in environmental sustainability and stewardship. So,
And I think during the latter part of your undergrads when we probably first met.
mhm.
And I know you did a lot of volunteering. So I was wondering if you could chat a little bit about um, what kind of things you did, obviously, but also like what was your goal or intended outcomes as you did that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I ended up settling on political science, just because I wanted to learn more how the government works and really how you could get involved with helping others. And that led me to a lot of the community service that I was involved in. So I was part of a community service co-ed fraternity here on campus that got me involved in some service opportunities. I did some service through the Honor Student Advisory Council as a part of the honors program here. We went on our trip. I think it was my junior or senior year to Grand Isle, Louisiana, as part of our alternative break program. And I also did some research in communities as part of the honor program. do some economic redevelopment in Appalachia based on economic tourism, and kind of really pushing people to use their natural resources without destroying them to build their economies up. And really, that's just something that I was interested in. I've always kind of had a passion for helping others. And, really during my college experience, I kind of sought out ways that I could do that in a meaningful way that would, impact others.
And then I know toward the end of your time as an undergrad, you were looking at graduate programs.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about how that process worked out for you as far as what you wanted out of a grad program and then what you ended up on and why.
Yeah, so I definitely wanted something that could fulfill my kind of want and desire to help people, and give back. I did end up settling on the RPA program here at EKU, which I'm super happy about. I think, you actually on our trip kind of influenced some of that decision and about, the research and being able to help others and, kind of building up communities through some of the programs that you can do through a parks and recreation type program. And so that's where I ended up was, again, Eternal Kernel here at EKU, which was a great experience that, I wanted to be able to get some of that research, but also some of those real world experiences that it would, help me with my resume and really kind of get me out in the community and helping others through the program as well.
And I'll brag a little bit about you as, here in a second, or for a second, is, when we look at graduate students and, different a graduate program has different students coming for different reasons and from different backgrounds and all that. And, when we looked at, Dylan Bogard as a candidate, you were pretty much a slam dunk as far as it fit. Like you said, you were good academically, but you're passionate about helping people, and that's something that that's the core of what parks recreation is in general. Whether it's therapeutic rec, outdoor rec, tourism, whatever it may be, is providing those optimal experiences, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, that's something that I admire about you is your passion for people. So I know you graduated and you moved on and got a big kid job, I would say, right?
Yeah.
So, uh, first of all, talk about like when you were getting closer to graduation, what was your mindset as far as looking for jobs? And then, because I know, knowing your where you're going with this, your path, tell us about why you chose that first position and what you learned from it.
Yeah, so my first position was actually with the city of Berea, which is about 15 minutes south of where I am now. And I was the communications manager for their tourism office. And so that was just kind of dipping my toes in, in the industry and being able to kind of help that community out and promote themselves. And when I was looking for those positions, I was looking for, again, kind of those same things, being able to help people out, utilize some of my strengths in communications and marketing, that I've kind of developed, in undergrad in my graduate program, and really, just an opportunity to help grow the area I was working in was something that was important to me, and I think that's kind of a good, selling point for any job that you're looking at. If the organization has some opportunity to grow and are willing to try new things, that's something that I always look for in a job opportunity because it's not only going to help them grow and help you grow your resume, but it's going to help you grow as a person as well. And that's I enjoyed that position. I was in it for about a year and a half, and then the position here at EKU came open, and it was I started out as the coordinator for community service in the Colonel's Cupboard, which is our on-campus food, clothing, and toiletry pantry. And that directly tied into my passions for giving back, and really helping out some of those programs that even I was a part of as a student, and the opportunity to grow some of the programs here at EKU was enticing to kind of change career paths there and go into that. It also tied a lot into the event planning piece of RPA and making sure that everything was being programmed smoothly, and your partnerships across campus and in the community were there as well.
Well, and it's also a good timing on EKU's part, like to have that position open and to have somebody of your caliber to be able to, I don't know, like you're a high caliber person, that's my thought, right? But like I think it's cool. Like I think about my undergrad institution, right? Like Oklahoma State, like there's a special connection I have, and I think a lot of people have that with their undergrad institution is, it's a special place for a variety of reasons. And to be able to hire an alum who has everything you need, and is passionate about the position and all that, I think that's a unique time. The timing couldn't be more perfect, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Um, and so tell us a little bit more about what you did with the Colonel's Cupboard and the service position there where you first started there.
Yeah, so I was in that probably for a little over 2 years in that role here at EKU. And it was really about community engagement, getting students out in the local community to, do service projects. We did things with Richmond Parks and Recreation, doing some lake cleanups at one of our local parks. We had them out working with the Habitat for Humanity, doing some things on campus as well, campus cleanups, doing some card writing for heroes, blood drives, all of that. And really a lot of that was programming on my side to get students involved, get them out of the classroom. There's always more than, oh, it's just a program for students to come to. It's, about helping them grow as individuals, helping keep them retained during their time at EKU, and really just overall enhancing their experience as a student. The other big piece of that was our alternative break program. That was probably one of my favorite pieces of that job and one of the things that I miss most about it. But we did take students out to various places for fall, winter, and spring break. I think they went to New Orleans a couple of times. We had students go to New York City. Grand Isle, Louisiana was a big one. We took them to Asheville for fall break. So that was an opportunity for students, which was exciting for me to kind of show students outside of their hometown for the first time. A lot of the students on those trips, just based on our service region, that would be their first time maybe out of the state. And not only are they getting kind of that cultural experience and learning about, a variety of different things that, affect people from all over the country, but also they got to, work with a variety of community partners like Habitat for Humanity, the National Park Service, the just, getting them out there and making those kind of professional connections while also getting to have fun and, really just having a good time with students. And most of the time they didn't even know they were learning something until we got to the end of the day and we had kind of those debrief talks. And, I actually had a student come in yesterday that was like, oh my gosh, are you all bringing the trips back? I'm so excited for it. And I was like, well, we'll have to see how everything's going. But, hopefully maybe for the spring, if not next year, bringing some of those back because they just had such a good time and an impactful experience. And the other piece of that too is our clothing and food pantry on campus. That was kind of the other big aspect of the job, where I work with an AmeriCorps Vista member that I supervise to really build that program out, expand it so that any student with a need can come over and get, whatever they might need, whether it's a few packs of macaroni and cheese and some canned meat or whatnot to get through the weekend, or if they need a week or 2 weeks worth of food. They can also now come and shop for clothing and toiletry items. And then hopefully starting next week too, we'll be able to offer some fresh food items. We just opened a new location for the Colonel's Cupboard on campus.
Okay,
So,
cool.
we've seen quite a few students throughout the years. And that's been something that we do some programming for to kind of raise awareness of food insecurity on college campuses. So a lot of it, a lot of what I do is tying in the principles that I learned in RPA of event planning and, just connecting people together and to their communities.
Right.
And, that really kind of kicked off with my first role here at EKU.
I saw a sign that maybe when we were talking about it, I saw a sign not too long ago that said, there's too much month at the end of the money.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty catchy. So I know you recently transitioned to a new role,
Mhm.
and I want to hear all about it and how that came about, and then everything you do.
Yeah. Oh boy. I did recently transition to the associate director role. Prior to that, I served as our assistant director for about a year and a half. And with some changes in the office and some of the responsibilities shifting, I came into my new role. It kind of have my hand in a little bit of everything in our office. So student life here at EKU not only includes those community service and leadership pieces in the Colonel's Cupboard, but also just some of our fun activities, we've got our bingos that students here love. You know, it's one of my favorite events to go to. We had our first one a couple weeks ago, and we had about 600 and some odd students outside, kind of
Okay.
spread out in our outdoor space. So love to see them kind of having a good time. We haven't been able to do one like that in quite a bit. Um, so I oversee that. I also still work directly with our Colonel's Cupboard. That's still kind of in my realm. I do a few things here in the student center. So like I oversee our game room operations and that kind of stuff, as well as our marketing and student workers in the office. So it keeps me busy. You know, I do supervise 3 staff members. So I oversee our activities person. I oversee our coordinator that oversees our student organizations in the office and our community service initiatives. So she also now works with our campus activities board, which is part of the Student Government Association. That's what kind of their branch that does some programming. And then I also supervise that AmeriCorps Vista that works with the Colonel's Cupboard. So got my hand in a little bit of everything in the office, but it keeps me busy, and you know it's great. I think one of our coordinators that I supervise, she has her undergrad in recreation and park administration too. So we we got a lot of people that come in and out of the office that have that kind of parks background as well.
Got to represent. It is funny, like, whether it's at Eastern Kentucky or, other institutions I've been a part of, is that network of people from there. Like, and I don't know about, I've always been around that. So I don't know if it's the same way with other majors, but, like you go somewhere and you'll say, like I was at Western Illinois and you're like, Western Illinois, yeah, and you're just like automatic, like, did we just become best friends?
Yeah.
But the same thing with EKU, and like I think EKU does a good, through the years, and especially currently, the leadership there does a good job at creating that sense of networking, camaraderie, so that it really is a stronger bond between people, even if you didn't go through the program at the same time. You still have those same experiences and feelings and all that. So before I ask like my final couple of questions, I want to. So when you were doing, stuff for your job, whether it's for the alternative breaks or the Colonel's Cupboard, what are some of the things that you've done that you feel really proud of?
Oh man. Well, I definitely would say, the Colonel's Cupboard is one of the biggest ones. One, I kind of mentioned earlier, but we did finally get approval to move that to our student center. We've moved it to the second floor of our student center. That's going to be more visible for students, easier to access. We've actually just got approved about a month ago to serve fresh food items for them, so we can have some of those dairy products that students wouldn't necessarily be able to afford or get without us. That's probably one of my favorite accomplishments over the years, just because, it's going to help so many more students with it being more centralized and more accessible for them. One of my other favorite memories, and, one of the things I'm most proud of, is a few years ago, I took a trip in my old role down to New Orleans. We worked with the National Park Service in the Lafayette National Cemetery down there. And, especially, in the last few years, there's been a lot of talk about race and racism in the United States. And, being down in New Orleans, there's a lot of history of, racism and students really getting to learn about that in connection to Hurricane Katrina and how that affected different populations down there, as well as on the cemetery we were working at. There was kind of a mass grave. It was during the Civil War, they buried some of the Confederate soldiers there, and there ended up being kind of a mass grave for the black civilians of New Orleans that were fighting on either side of the war, and they did kind of just while the soldiers were in marked graves that could be exhumed or moved, there was just a mass grave that nobody even really knows where it's at. They just kind of have a faded plaque. And that led to a really good discussion. And, some of my students actually, that was the first time they had really known about racism. I think they had heard about it or maybe learned a little bit about the civil rights movement, but they didn't really know how much it affected communities. And so that, those kind of experiences and, kind of seeing that light bulb go off in a student's mind when they learn about something or, experience something firsthand that maybe they've only read about or, heard on the news. It, is one of my favorite accomplishments. There's been several of those times over the past 4 years that I've worked in this role, but that one really stands out just because that student was so fired up and, really took it on to do some more research and, try to help out as much as they could, educate, their friends and family when they got back about those kind of things.
True. I remember, quick side note, like the Jefferson Davis State Historic Site there in Kentucky. I don't know if you've ever been there. You had already graduated and were working full time. When we took some students, we took them to Mammoth Cave National Park, and then we were on our way to one of the state parks. I don't remember if it was Barkley or Kentucky Lake or Kentucky Dam Village, one of those. And anyway, so it was on the way. So I'm like, this is a great time for me to check off another state historic site, like bucket list kind of thing, and also like it had some history to it, right? So it's the Jefferson Davis, and so when we walked in, I took the students there, and kind of the same thing. Like some of these students, they haven't really thought and struggled with this topic, and I remember the lady talking, and it was an eye opener. We went in, and the lady was like, actually, we had another president, that blah blah blah, and like, I'm trying to be careful on how I say this, but it was very heart wrenching in how she still found pride in some of the things that I don't think we should have pride in. That's probably the most PC way I could
Yeah.
say it. But these students, you tell them, they were like, who's Jefferson Davis? And you're like, well, let's talk about who Jefferson Davis is, so it is, it's, and I'm glad the students, New Orleans is a wonderful place for a lot of different reasons, but I'm glad they had that experience, and I think that middle-aged white guy, right? It's important for me to continue to think about and keep those thoughts on the cusp so that, and I'm guessing the same thing with, you're not as old as I am, but like thinking about like the students and continuing to have those experiences where, they have to grapple with subjects, right?
Yep.
So yeah. So cool. Yeah. I remember I've got a picture somewhere, and you're in it with me. We've got orange shirts. We've been
Hmm.
working down there in Grand Isle, Louisiana, and we are, to say we're disgusting, I think is to put it lightly. And
Yeah.
it's one of my favorite pictures of all time. It really is. Every time I see it, because I run across it every now and then, I love that picture. And you were a part of that experience. So I want to say thank you. Okay, so the final couple of questions. First one, your dream job. Like, so you gotta tell me, and it can't be something you're doing now. That's I've made that mistake. People are like, oh, I love my job now. Okay, I do too, but we get it. Don't get me wrong. But tell me about a dream job and what you would do.
Phew. I would say I've got a couple that I've had in mind.
Right.
I think it would be nice to do something events related with a nonprofit. Somebody like thinking Sierra Club, Nature Conservancy, those kind of things where you could host events, but also some of the volunteer coordinators that I worked with kind of on the other side of my old role that lead the alternative breaks from their side of the organization. I think that would be kind of fun. I've also just thought it would always be fun to be a park ranger in a national park and just be able to talk to people and connect and tell the story of whatever site or park that I'm working at. I always just thought that would be fun. I love connecting to people. And in both of my dream jobs, there's ways for me to help give back and educate people and do all those kind of things. So, but those would be top two dream jobs. Working in the National Park Service or just kind of working with a nonprofit in a similar role. Working with people,
Right.
volunteer coordinator, that kind of thing.
And I'm surprised you didn't have anything related to like VW bugs, like
Oh, well, yeah. In a totally unrelated, on
yeah.
on RPA related, I would totally like be an old Volkswagen mechanic out there, trying to keep those things on the road. But I don't think I have enough patience to do that.
There's a place that we drive by on our way to like Lowe's and whatnot. That's he's a foreign car mechanic, and there are several bugs out there in different stages of disrepair. But um, my youngest daughter finds great joy in saying "punch buggy" and punching everybody.
Oh no.
Yeah. So, but it's but I think about you quite often because related to that. So final thing before I let you go is, for young professionals or students that are thinking about getting into student life related to Parks and Rec or events or just student life in general, or something about what you've done, they kind of find a passion for service or whatnot. What kind of advice or tidbits of wisdom would you give these students or young professionals related to what you've done or how you've done it?
Yeah. So I would definitely say if you're maybe interested in going this path of student life, you definitely have all the tools in your belt to do it with an RPA degree. Just don't sell yourself short. You've got the experience in doing research, which is super important in a higher education setting. You've got experience doing event programming and connecting people. When you're looking for those jobs, make sure you sell those kind of aspects of your education. And I would say, in those jobs, just making sure that you find yourself a part of a good dynamic team. Anywhere that I've ever worked, if you've got a great team with you, that's going to make or break your job. Everybody kind of pulling their weight and just having that kind of fun environment. That's one of the things that I love about my job is that I've got a great team that works here. Everybody has a good time, even in some of the hardest situations, just
Right.
because that's who we are as people. And if you're looking at student life, that's just who you're going to be around, are people that love to joke and have fun, even if you're pushing a dead golf cart up a hill at 2 in the morning. You'll be having a good time and laughing while doing it. I would also say, and this is probably just good advice for any job, is just making sure that you find time for a work-life balance. RPA is, definitely, whether you're in student life or working with parks or a nonprofit, sometimes you find yourself working long hours and that kind of thing, which is to be expected with this kind of work. But just making sure you take some time for yourself, take a little getaway of staycation if you have to, and utilize those days off that you get as part of whatever job you're working in, and try to keep your work-life balance as much as possible. But those are kind of my big pieces of advice. Just make sure when you're looking, it's something that you're really passionate about and you want to do, and you'll you'll love what you do.
Dylan, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really proud of you, man, and sincerely. Thank you for doing this. And, if it ever, any time you need, you can definitely reach out, and also make sure that you stay in touch and keep me updated on all things Dylan.
Yeah, will do.
All right. Have a good day. Thank you.
You too.